The wind howled through the pines, rattling the windows of my remote mountain cabin as I pulled into the graveled driveway 3 days earlier than planned. Exhaustion clung to me like damp fog after a grueling work trip, but the thought of my cozy retreat, my sanctuary, kept me going. I'd left the city's chaos for this, a quiet escape in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where the only sounds were birdsong and the rustle of leaves. But as I stepped out of my truck, my heart lurched. A strange SUV sat parked in my spot, and warm light spilled from my cabin's windows. Someone was inside. My stomach twisted with a mix of confusion and dread. Who the hell was in my house? I grabbed my phone, my fingers trembling as I checked for any messages from the HOA. Nothing. No notice. No warning. The Pine Hollow Homeowners Association was notorious for its meddling. Led by Karen Whitaker, the self-appointed queen of the mountain. She'd hounded me before about everything from my mailbox color to the height of my grass, but this was a violation on a whole new level. I crept toward the cabin, my boots crunching softly on the gravel, and peered through the window. A woman I'd never seen before lounged on my couch, sipping wine, her laughter echoing through the glass. My blood boiled. This wasn't just a mistake. This was an invasion. I knocked hard, my knuckles stinging against the wooden door. The laughter stopped. The woman inside froze, her eyes darting toward the sound. She was middle-aged, with a sleek bob and a sweater that screamed weekend getaway. She opened the door a crack, her expression shifting from annoyance to confusion. "Who are you?" she demanded, as if I were the intruder. "I'm the owner," I said, my voice tight. "This is my cabin." "Who the hell are you?" Her face paled, but before she could answer, a familiar voice cut through the night. "Is there a problem here?" Karen Whitaker strode up the driveway, her flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. Her lips were pursed, her eyes glinting with that smug authority she wore like a crown. Behind her, 2 police officers followed, their hands resting casually on their belts. My heart sank. She'd called the cops. On me? "Karen, what is this?" snapped, gesturing toward the stranger in my doorway. "Why is someone in my house?" Karen's smile was all teeth. "Oh, Ethan, you weren't supposed to be back until Sunday. I rented out your cabin for the weekend. This is Linda, my friend from book club. She needed a getaway, and your place was just sitting empty. Rented it out," I repeated, my voice rising. "You don't have the right to do that. This is my property." The officers exchanged a glance, and one stepped forward, his tone calm but firm. "Sir, let's keep this civil. We got a call about a possible trespasser. Can you confirm you're the owner?" I fumbled for my wallet, pulling out my ID and the deed I kept in my truck for emergencies. My hands shook as I handed them over, my anger warring with disbelief. Linda hovered in the doorway, clutching her wineglass like a lifeline, while Karen stood there, arms crossed, looking infuriatingly smug. The officer reviewed my documents, nodded, and handed them back. "Looks like this is your place, Mr. Carter." "Ma'am," he said, turning to Linda, "you'll need to gather your things and leave." Linda's jaw dropped. "But I paid for this weekend." Karen said it was all arranged. "Paid?" I whirled on Karen. "You're charging people to stay in my cabin? Are you out of your mind?" Karen's composure cracked, just for a second, but she recovered quickly. "Ethan, you're never here. The HOA has rules about maintaining community standards, and an empty cabin is a liability. I was doing you a favor, keeping it occupied." "A favor?" I laughed, bitter and sharp. "You broke into my home, Karen. That's not a favor, that's a crime." The second officer raised a hand. "Ma'am, did you have permission to enter this property?" Karen hesitated, her eyes darting between me and the officers.
"No!"
"Not explicitly, but as HOA president, I have a responsibility too." "To what?" I cut in. "Steal my house? How did you even get in?" Her silence was deafening. Linda, now packing her bags in a flurry, muttered something about a key under the mat. My stomach churned. I'd hidden a spare key there for emergencies. Never. Imagining someone like Karen would use it to play Airbnb with my life. The officers took Karen aside. their voices low but stern. I caught fragments words like trespassing and unauthorized entry. Linda, meanwhile, dragged her suitcase out, shooting Karen a betrayed look. "You said this was legit," she hissed before storming to her SUV. I stood in my doorway, watching the chaos unfold, my anger giving way to a hollow kind of exhaustion. This wasn't just about a weekend mix-up. This was about control, about Karen's obsession with ruling Pine Hollow like her personal fiefdom. As the police questioned Karen, stepped inside, my heart sinking further. My books were rearranged, my kitchen counter cluttered with someone else's groceries. A half-eaten lasagna sat in my oven. The violation hit me like a punch my space. My refuge had been turned into someone else's vacation rental. I sank onto the couch, the same one Linda had lounged on, and buried my face in my hands. The officers eventually returned.
"Oh, Mr.
Carter," the first one said. "Ms. Whitaker claims she acted in good faith. But we've advised her that entering your property without permission is a serious matter. You can press charges if you choose." I looked at Karen standing by her car now, her flashlight dangling limply at her side. For once, she didn't look smug, just small, caught in her own web. Part of me wanted to push for charges, to make her pay for crossing a line. But the thought of a drawn-out legal battle in this tight-knit community made my stomach turn. "I just want her to stay the hell away from my property," I said finally, "and I want that key back." The officer nodded. "We'll make sure of it." Ms. Whitaker handed over the key. Karen fumbled in her pocket, her face flushed as she dropped the key into the officer's hand. "This is a misunderstanding," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. The officers escorted her to her car, warning her to steer clear of my property. As their taillights faded into the night, I locked the door, my hands still shaking. The cabin was quiet again, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. I spent the next hour scrubbing away every trace of Linda's presence, tossing out her groceries, stripping the bed, wiping down surfaces, but the unease lingered. How many times had Karen done this? How many others had slept in my bed, cooked in my kitchen while I was away? The thought made my skin crawl. The next morning, I drove to the HOA office, a small building at the edge of Pine Hollow. I demanded a meeting with the board, laying out everything: Karen's unauthorized rental, the key, the cops. The other members, mostly retirees who'd always deferred to Karen's iron fist, were stunned. By the end of the week, Karen was stripped of her presidency, placed by a quiet widower who promised to respect boundaries. But even with Karen gone, the cabin never felt the same. I installed new locks, a security system, and a no trespassing sign for good measure. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump, every shadow outside my window a potential intruder. My sanctuary had been tainted, and no amount of cleaning could wash away the violation. I started spending less time there, opting for city hotels instead. Pine Hollow, once my escape, had become a reminder of how even the quietest places could hide someone else's schemes.